The wedding proceeds seamlessly. Finally, after days of tension, I can exhale in relief. I take my place at my desk, preparing to wrap up for the day, trusting the night manager to oversee the wedding's conclusion. Just as I'm about to log off, my phone buzzes. It's a message from Brian. Still awaiting that invoice? Brian asked. I consider brushing it off until tomorrow, but his follow-up text compels me to hastily search for my email. Do I need to swing by and handle it myself? Sending it over now along with the booking confirmation. Rapidly, I respond, checking the calendar for an open slot. Suddenly struck by an idea, I calculate that if the cost is too steep, he'll likely refuse. Crafting the invoice, I forward it to his office email, as provided earlier. Suppressing a chuckle, I watch as my phone dances across the desk, vibrating with his incoming call. With a grin, I answer. $60,000? Brian's voice erupts through the phone. I swiftly move the receiver away, muffling my laughter until I compose myself. Well, that extra half-star rating doesn't come cheap, you know. How many stars do you have again? 4. I tease, taking a playful jab at the fact that my hotel's rating was currently half a star higher than his. This is outrageous. What on earth are you serving that warrants such a price? And do I at least get some extra perks for that much? Maybe a little extra service? Brian inquires, his tone dripping with incredulity. Oh, you know, only the finest delicacies fit for a blood alpha. Fairy bread with premium sprinkles, Frankfurt sausages with top-tier tomato sauce. And if I'm feeling especially generous, I might throw in a game of pass the parcel and some goodie bags. But as for the extra service, I'm sure Alice can handle that just fine. I'd rather skip on any potential STDs, I retort cheekily, unable to resist poking fun. Brian's response is a low growl of frustration. I don't have an STD. You think this will turn me away? Brian snaps defensively. I'm certainly hoping so, I reply with a smirk. No chance. Fine, if you want to serve all the alphas in the city kids' party food, go for it. Check your bank in the morning. The money will be there. Oh, and Jane, he adds with a tone of warning. Yes, Alpha, I respond, feeling a mixture of boredom and eagerness to end the conversation and retire for the night. I'll be seeing you real soon, and if I'm paying this much, it'll come with a happy ending from you personally, he chuckles before abruptly hanging up. I'm left pondering his cryptic remark as I head back to my apartment. Before I even settle in, my bank notifies me of a payment deposited into the hotel's account. Astonished by the speed of the transaction, I reluctantly open the notification, confirming that it's indeed from Brian. I groan audibly, realizing the implications of his words. My God, I mutter to myself, feeling a mix of frustration and resignation. I had been so sure that Brian would refuse. Yet, not only had he agreed, but he had also paid in full, leaving me with the task of hosting for 4-packs. The implications of this hit me hard. The girls would be furious. Rogues despise being patronized by social elites all night. And as for the catering team, they would be livid once they realized we were catering not just for one alpha, but for 4, along with a few neighboring city alphas. Perhaps I could pacify them with a bonus? It's worth considering. As I step inside, I find Zelda lounging on the couch, her eyes fixed on the TV screen, a tired expression on her face. Oh no, what happened? She asks, sensing my distress. We may be hosting the alpha meeting. Well, we are hosting the alpha meeting, I reply with a heavy sigh, confirming her worst fears. This is what you didn't want to tell Margaret and me when we asked how you managed to get the delivery truck and a fridge in? Zelda questions, her eyebrows furrowing in concern. I nod, nervously chewing my lip. Charge him double, that will send him packing, Zelda suggests with a hint of mischief in her voice. I charged him $50,000, I admit reluctantly. What? Zelda exclaims, her eyes widening in disbelief. That'll definitely send him elsewhere, she adds with a laugh, but I remain somber. No, he didn't, I correct her, my expression grim. He paid in full. That son of, lovely lady, Zelda corrects herself with a forced grin. What do we do about the kids, Valentin and Carol? Both their fathers will be there, and if Terrence is here, guaranteed he will bring his mate. Zelda frets, gnawing on her lip anxiously. Terrence was Carol's father, and he still hadn't disclosed to his mate that he had an illegitimate child, a fact that concerned Zelda greatly given his mate Anna's struggles with fertility. Maybe we can ask Margaret's mom. It's not for 3 weeks. We have time to figure something out, I suggest optimistically, trying to inject a sense of hope into the situation. It is what it is, Zelda says with a resigned shrug. What about your father? She inquires, her tone gentle. He'll probably just ignore me, I reckon. I haven't seen him since the hardware store years ago, I reply with a hint of bitterness. Maybe he might be over it, want to reconnect? Zelda suggests optimistically. Maybe. I don't think so, though. He tossed me away, I admit, the hurt still lingering after all this time. Although, Valentin asked me about my family today. He also asked about Brian, I add, a flicker of curiosity crossing my features. What did you tell Valentin? Zelda asks, her curiosity piqued. I saw the family tree thing. Carol brought one home too. Valentin added you, Margaret, and the girls to it. I reply with a smile. Damn well better have. I'm the best auntie anyone could ask for, Zelda declares proudly, and I chuckle in agreement. Did they settle down easily tonight? Zelda asks, changing the subject. Carol had a bit of a tummy ache, but Valentin went down without any trouble. He asked when you would be home, and he was poking around in your room earlier. He even took some pictures from the photo album, I inform her with a fond smile, imagining Valentin's curiosity and mischief. Yeah, I told him he could, I confirm with a nod. Zelda chews her lip nervously, her expression troubled. He overheard you on the phone earlier and asked what being marked meant, she confesses. What did you tell him? I inquire, feeling a pang of anxiety at the thought of having such a conversation with Valentin. That mates mark each other, Zelda replies with a helpless shrug. No, I mutter, pinching the bridge of my nose in frustration. I didn't blame her for the response. It was a delicate topic, and she did the best she could with it. He overheard me on the phone to Brian this morning, I confess, feeling the weight of the added complications that had arisen since Brian re-entered my life. He seemed to bring nothing but a cascade of problems with him. Zelda sighs in understanding. I figured. He's sometimes too smart for his own good, that boy is, she remarks, echoing my sentiments about Valentin's perceptiveness. 2 days later, Monday. As we rushed to drop off the kids at school the next morning, Zelda and I realized it was crazy hair day only when we saw other kids with their hair all tousled and colorful as we walked out the door. Margaret reminded us, and we quickly made a detour to buy some spray and hair color. Pulling up at the local grocery store, Zelda dashed inside and returned with cans of electric blue and glitter bomb hair color. We pulled both kids out of her little yellow Volkswagen, and Carol giggled excitedly as her hair transformed into a vibrant shade of blue. However, Valentin wasn't as enthusiastic. I don't want to look like a Smith, he protested with a pout. Zelda said these were the only colors left. But it's for a good cause, to raise money for the children's hospital, and for you guys to have fun, I explained, hoping to persuade him to join in the spirit of the event. What about the glitter one? Zelda suggests, trying to find a compromise. Valentin crosses his arms stubbornly, watching Carol dance around the car park with her blue hair. No, it'll make my hair sticky, he protests, sticking to his stance. Come on, Val, just a little, I plead with him, feeling a mix of frustration and desperation. Sometimes, getting him to cooperate felt like pulling teeth. Couldn't he just embrace the fun for once? You'll be the only kid without your hair done, Zelda points out, gesturing towards Carol, who's still happily prancing around with her new look. Please, I add, hoping to appeal to his sense of fairness. Fine, just one line. Valentin relents begrudgingly. Zelda carefully applies a line of glitter from the front of his head to the back. She shrugs apologetically, but the glitter barely shows against his dark hair. Better than nothing, Zelda remarks, trying to put a positive spin on the situation, and we agree, counting it as a small victory. Climbing back into the car, we make our way to the school. As we pull up, we see the teachers waiting outside, their hair styled in various colorful and wild designs. The sight brings a smile to my face despite the rundown appearance of the school itself. Covered in graffiti and with a mere 200 students in total, the school's condition is a stark reminder of the neglect that plagues our community. It angers me to no end that just 2 streets away on the other side stands Alpha Bryan's Pack School, along with 3 other Pack schools across the road. Yet, children of rogues or those associated with rogues are deemed unworthy of receiving a proper education. The least they could do is allow for qualified teachers. Valentin is intelligent, perhaps even more so than some of the teachers here. It's a frustrating reality that I'm all too familiar with. As we enrolled the kids in school, Margaret, Zelda, and I were taken aback by the dismal state of the facilities. The school barely had a library, with only one old computer to be shared among the students. Determined to make a difference, we decided to raise money for the school. For 2 weeks, we allocated half of all hotel sales and room fees to the school. It was evident that the packs weren't going to offer assistance, but inadvertently, they did so by attending the fair we held at the hotel. Through their patronage, we managed to raise enough funds to purchase new laptops, and the library was finally stocked with a variety of books, transforming it into a true learning space. I just had an idea about what the bonus from the Alpha meeting could be used for. I share with Zelda, a spark of excitement igniting within me. I still can't believe he paid it, I add, gesturing toward the dilapidated play equipment nearby. It was a painful reminder of the school's dire state. Just last week, Margaret's daughter Tessie had fallen off and broken her arm after slipping through the bridge between the 2 platforms. Zelda's smile warms my heart. "Thank you, Alpha Bryan," she murmurs gratefully. I was thinking of asking those willing to cater for the event if they would accept a double bonus for the night, with the remainder of the amount going towards the play equipment at the school. I explained my plan to Zelda. "You know they'll say yes. Just look how eager they were to help out at the fair we held. Everyone has kids who attend the school," Zelda observes. "Yes, but it's also a big ask for them to put up with the Alf holes," I reply with a smirk. "True, but they'll be happy, you'll see," Zelda reassures me with a smile. I can sense her excitement. We all share a sense of fulfillment when it comes to supporting our fellow rogues and their children. Opening the back door, I let Valentin out and plant a kiss on his cheek, but he quickly wipes it away. "What's wrong?" I inquire, noticing his uncharacteristic scowl. "Who were you talking to on Saturday?" Valentin asks abruptly, his mood sour. He had been unusually tense all weekend. "Just the delivery people," I respond casually, fully aware of what he's getting at. He had been probing me relentlessly all weekend, seizing every opportunity to inquire about his father. "You're lying. You said he couldn't mark you, but I heard a man's voice." Zelda said mates mark each other. "Why did you say that man couldn't mark you? Is he your mate? Is it my dad?" Valentin interrogates me, his voice tinged with accusation. I glance at Zelda, who mouths an apology to me. "No, sweetie, it was just a figure of speech," I lie, but Valentin's eyes narrow, seeing right through my attempt to brush off his questions. This kid was far too observant for his own good. "Is this why you've been upset lately?" I probe gently, trying to divert the conversation. "Why isn't my dad your mate?" he presses, his tone carrying a hint of demand. Glancing around, I notice the teachers nearby, pretending not to overhear our conversation. All this fuss over some trivial homework issue. I sigh, wondering if there's a way to navigate through this minefield. "Harry said you were a rogue whore, and that's why my dad isn't around," Valentin blurts out suddenly, his words stinging with the venom of playground gossip. "He said that, did he?" I growl in frustration. Harry was nothing more than a troublemaker, and he and Valentin were always at odds. Yep, so I punched him in his ugly face. But then I thought about what he said, and now I want to know. Valentin demands, his frustration evident in his tone. "Okay, we can talk about this when you get home," I concede, hoping to diffuse the situation, but he glares at me defiantly. "The wind will change, and your face will get stuck like that," I jest, trying to lighten the mood, but Valentin remains stubborn, folding his arms across his chest. His expression doesn't soften. "Not here, Valentin," I insist firmly. "Fine. But when I get home, I want to know who my dad is and why I can't see him," he declares, his frown deepening. I don't like them calling you and Auntie Zelda names, he adds, and I can't help but smile grimly at his protective instinct. Well, Harry's dad is a rogue because he spat in his alpha's face, Zelda interjects from behind me. Valentin wrinkles his nose in disgust. See, he's a nasty boy, I affirm, hoping to steer Valentin's focus away from his own inquiries. You promise you'll tell me? Valentin asks, his eyes searching mine for reassurance. I sigh, exchanging a glance with Zelda, who wears a concerned frown. I'll tell you what I can, I concede reluctantly. Pinky promise? Valentin insists, holding out his little pinky expectantly. Pinky promise, I confirm, linking my pinky with his. His mood seems to lift slightly before he turns away, and I can't help but feel a pang of guilt knowing that there are truths I can't fully disclose to him just yet. Now, I had to figure out what I could tell him without giving too much away. As Valentin rushes off toward the front gate with Carol, I notice Tessie waiting for them. Hey, Auntie Zelda, Auntie Jane, Tessie calls out brightly, waving with her broken arm encased in a brightly decorated cast adorned with colorful drawings and names. Hey, sweetie, Zelda and I reply in unison, returning her wave. Can I come over for a swim on the weekend? Tessie calls out to us eagerly. Of course, darling. And if you'd like, I'll even ask your mother if you can stay for a sleepover, I offer, feeling a sense of excitement at the prospect. It would be the first weekend I've had off in a year, and I was looking forward to giving Zelda a well-deserved break. Margaret always joked that we'd never need a man because we had each other, and with the way we handled the kids between us, we were practically married. Yes! Tessie exclaims, pumping her fist in the air with excitement. Zelda waves goodbye to Tessie, and I climb back into the passenger seat of the car. I can't help but sigh, missing the familiarity of my truck. However, as we drive home, we pass by a familiar sight, Alpha Brian's black Mercedes. Its windows are tinted, but it's unmistakable. It's the only car of its kind I've seen around here. Pull over and turn around, I instruct Zelda, a sudden urgency gripping me. She quickly finds a safe spot to turn around, and we backtrack to where we saw the car. When we arrive, Alpha Brian is already out of his car, parked in front of the public library. Is that Alpha Brian's car? Zelda asks, her eyes widening with curiosity as she follows my gaze. I simply nod in response, my mind racing with questions and possibilities. No. Whatever you're thinking, no, Zelda protests, her voice laced with concern as she pulls the car in beside Alpha Brian's Mercedes. What are you going to do? She asks, her apprehension palpable. He ruined Valentin's car, so I'm going to ruin his, I declare, my tone firm. But deep down, my anger extends beyond just the car incident. The inequality in schooling options, with the giant school just 2 streets away that no rogue child could attend, was a constant source of frustration for me. Every time the kids asked about the imposing building visible from the main road, it served as a reminder of the systemic injustice they faced. As we approach the pristine white sandstone school, my frustration bubbles up anew. It was erected at the same time as the first pack house, along with the church, yet rogue children were barred from attending. Packs were granted freedom to travel wherever they pleased, as long as they adhered to the rules of the territories they visited. But for rogues, even looking beyond the main street or venturing into designated rogue areas was strictly forbidden. Getting out of the car, Zelda lets out a small squeak of concern. Jane, she hisses urgently as I begin rummaging through her trunk. What are you looking for? She asks, her voice filled with apprehension. Got a screwdriver? I inquire, focused on my mission. You scratch that car, he'll lose it, Zelda warns, her concern evident in her voice. Not going to ruin its paint. Besides, this crap will wash off with water, I reassure her, waving off her worries. She rolls her eyes before rummaging around and passing me a tire valve remover. Why do you have that? I ask, raising an eyebrow at her. She shrugs nonchalantly, her gaze fixed on the sky. I may have used it on Terrence's car a few times, she admits sheepishly. And you're trying to stop me? You're just as bad as I am, I tease, unable to suppress a smirk. He owed me child support, Zelda huffs indignantly, revealing her motive for her past actions. I chuckle at her confession. I had been planning on puncturing the tires, but this idea was even better. I set to work, swiftly removing the tire valves while Zelda keeps watch and sprays glitter all over his car as a distraction. The air escapes from the tires rapidly, and I hurry to the front window, grabbing the blue spray dye. With a mischievous grin, I write on the window, "Alfhole XX." It was a subtle yet satisfying way to express my frustration without causing permanent damage. We quickly rush back to Zelda's car, giggling like mischievous teenagers as we drive away. We hadn't caused any real damage, but the inconvenience we'd caused would surely be annoying for Alpha Brian. "You know he'll figure it out, right?" Zelda remarks, her tone a mixture of amusement and concern. Innocent until proven guilty, I respond with a shrug, brushing off her worries. Who else would be brave enough to do that to the Blood Alpha? Zelda snickers, acknowledging the audacity of our actions. Crossing him was unheard of. He held immense power and influence. Stuff him. He deserves it for making our kids attend shitty schools and for forcing me to host the Alpha meeting, I assert defiantly. He'll live, and I doubt he'll even bat an eyelash at the cost to get it towed and fixed if he's willing to pay $50,000 for an Alpha meeting, I add with a smirk, feeling a sense of satisfaction at our small act of rebellion.